on to item 7, County Administrator, Unfinished Business, Canoa Ranch Conservation Committee. Mr. Huckleberry.
Hey, Artie.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you have 3 communications from me on this subject. The first one is a informational memorandum dated December 9th. The second is the agenda item that was basically with the material that was considered by the board last week was continued, and then you have a follow-up memorandum to me modifying my recommendation. This recommendation comes from a fairly long and lengthy discussion with staff over the future of the committee associated with Canoa Ranch. First, the Oversight Committee, and then second, 2 foundations. We've had 2 foundations formed, initially formed to support Canoa Ranch, and over time we've tried to get the 2 foundations to merge and have some common ground with regard to their activities. In the discussion about trying to merge the foundations, they declined to merge. And what we have is, in my view, the need to move on with more advisory governance with regard to Canoa Ranch. The county has invested about $14 million to date in acquiring the properties, restoring some of the features with regard to Canoa Ranch. We put in bond funds. We've put in county general fund more recently due to our need to what we believed was to actually make restoration of some of the structures on Canoa Ranch. We have not attracted any outside funding other than we required a SARCO through a air quality violation settlement to invest in Canoa Ranch, and so that is occurring. What we have is, I think, the need to move forward. And in fact, one of the brochures handed out by, I think, the Friends of Canoa Foundation talks about the Canoa Conservation Park, and that's exactly the point. We had an oversight committee during the process of plan and master plan development and acquisition of the property and some of the initial conservation. We now need to move forward with is what I've named a Conservation Commission. I've modified my recommendation from previous week that had 7 members to now 7 members plus 3 that are specifically named as carryover members from the Oversight Committee to ensure continuity. And those particular members have diversity and expertise that cannot be, we'll say, replicated based on their past, their experiences, their training, their education, or their life experiences on the ranch itself. And so I've made the modified recommendation to you. Final modification is we had some discussion about mission, and that mission needs to change the word promote to plan in order to avoid any complications on a future bond issue, as I intend to recommend that we continue to invest in Canoa Ranch through whenever the next bond issue occurs. And the word promoting is an unnecessary complication and potentially causes some legal concern. Finally, there's nothing magical about the mission statement. Can in fact be modified. It was just our thought of how to move this process forward and get everybody working in the same direction with regard to conserving Canoa Ranch. That has been our mission and will continue to be our mission. And we hope to have a continued involvement of a very active Conservation Commission that helps guide the board in the conservation and preservation of Canoa.
Thank you, Mr. Huckleberry. Does the board member, Supervisor Elias?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that. And I would just say that, I'm glad Mr. Huckleberry put out this clarification to his original memo. But I would like to apologize to those members who were taken completely by surprise about this move with the Canoa Ranch committee. This is my own heritage as well, my own history as well. We own the ranch across the road over there in Sopori, the Elias family, and we share that tradition with the folks who live there at Canoa and the folks who lived at Sopori also. and we're respectful of those relationships, and I particularly am sensitive to that area and the history as it's become revised, as it's become changed. Um, the people who live there understand things in a very special kind of way. I respect that. I heard thousands of stories as I was growing up from my grandparents and my great-grandparents and my great-aunts, probably to the point of where we really wanted to drift off and listen to the Beatles, but we listened to those stories. And so all of that is important to me. And I wanted to make sure that I started off this conversation by mentioning that because it is very personal to me as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Elias. We have a number of speakers. Supervisor Miller.
I just wanted to comment on that as well, that I know that there were 15 members who participated in this board for many, many years, and I would like to make sure that we recognize them for their contributions and efforts on this. I'm not sure about the background as to how this all came about, but I did hear that people on the board that they were surprised about this move. I do like the fact that you have retained 3 members from the previous board. Apparently they were at-large members appointed by the committee. I think that's a good thing for the continuity. I did have a question, how were they chosen? Were they chosen by the existing board, or was that just a decision that was made by you, Mr. Huckleberry?
Mr. Huckleberry.
Yes, Madam Chair and Supervisor Miller, yes, they were chosen by myself.
By you?
Because of their expertise in, we'll say, ranch history and with Tom Sheridan, Mexican-American history and culture, and simply the life experience of being on the ranch.
Okay, and I do, recognize that you get to a point where you need to, regroup and move forward with, and I like the idea that we've got Pima County Advisory Board. I think that's really good on a go forward basis. And then the other question I had was, each board member will be appointing a member, and I guess we will be doing that in the near future when that comes up. I guess my final comment was that we are reducing the number of members from 15 down to 12, but adding this advisory board. Is that correct?
Madam Chair and Supervisor Miller, it's actually 10.
10, okay.
10. And I'm not concerned about ties, votes, because typically in this kind of environment, we almost always receive unanimous recommendations from an advisory committee.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it does say 10 here. I apologize. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions of board members? Mr. Huckleberry, just procedurally, there will be this committee, but in terms of any changes to the perhaps mission of the ranch or the conservation park, what happens? We've got this committee that makes recommendations, then what's the process after that?
Yes, Madam Chair, what we're looking at, obviously, as we go forward into the future, one of the things we hope is that one of the foundations will be successful, or there may be other foundations that we haven't even thought about who may wish to invest in the conservation of Canoa Ranch. Our first view is that any proposal that would come from a foundation to invest in the conservation first goes through what I would call, and if you look at my communication memorandum, kind of a staff oversight committee, and that's the Director of Parks and Recreation, the Director of Conservation and Sustainability, and Robert Vaughn, who's really been the on-site individual responsible for the conservation and restoration activities to date. What they will do is determine whether or not the proposal by the foundation is consistent with the adopted master plan. And I think that's very important because we had a lot of conversation about things that haven't been consistent with the adopted master plan. If in fact is consistent, it goes to the commission. The commission decides.
And the commission being the Parks Commission?
No, the commission being the Canoa Ranch
Canoa,
Conservation
okay.
Commission, this 10 members. They then determine the appropriateness of the investment and then make the final recommendation to the board, because the board obviously is the legal body that has to act on it, and it's the county's property, and the investments that are made are under the direct control of the board.
So essentially, it's a three-step process, starting with the Director of Parks and Rec and what is his title these days?
Robert Vaughn, the on-site manager.
On-site manager,
and
okay.
as well as Linda Mayrow, who is our Director of Conservation and Sustainability.
Okay, so we've got that process, then the commission, and then the board. All
Correct.
right, thank you. We have a number of speakers. I am going to ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. Please do not be repetitive, and you will see the light there warning you when your time is about to expire. And with that, I would like to call Nancy Williams.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nancy Williams, 2080 West Dove Way, Amato, Arizona, 85645. Chairman Bronson and members of the Board of Supervisors, Mr. Huckleberry. I just had a few comments. One, I believe as a member of the Oversight and Trust Committee that is currently involved that we have tried very hard to follow the exact directions that we were given from the beginning, and that to my knowledge we have had no different directions. We've gone back and looked at the directives on occasion to make sure that we were following exactly what the charges were that we were given, and I would hope that if the Board of Supervisors has other direction for this committee or any other committee, that they would speak those directives directly to the committee. In regard to the two organizations, I'm a member of the Friends of Canoa Heritage, and I just wanted to make a couple of comments about that. The Friends of Canoa Heritage has been actively involved in our mission statement, which is, for example, to create a library on the Canoa Ranch for research. It has secured the donation or loan of the George Proctor Redondo collection of ranch artifacts to be displayed upon the ranch, and we are working with ideas to come up with funding to support the reconstruction and restoration of the pond. As far as I know, the De La Canoa Foundation, as I look at their direction and their mission statement, refers to restoring, rehabilitating, operating, and maintaining the ranch. And according to Mr. Riddle in the newspaper, Green Valley News, last week, January 5th, he said that to date their organization had raised no money, and even said that they were soon to be dissolved, which I don't know anything about. But my point is that these two organizations have completely different mission statements, completely different directions. Therefore, merging did not make sense to us because we were working on different aspects of the project. And I would hope that there is even room for other organizations as well who will also support the development of the Canoa Ranch. I think it's one of those cases where the more different ideas and the more ideas and workers that you can have on a project, the better. So I don't see a need to reduce that down to one organization. I think there's a benefit by diversity. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Miss Ellen Kurtz.
Good morning. My name is Ellen Kurtz, and I'm an original member of the Pima County Canoa Ranch Trust and Oversight Committee since its inception in 2001. I and others on the committee are dedicated because of the importance of Canoa in history as well as for its ecological values. I am as well a founding member of Friends of Canoa Heritage, a 501c3, which was formed in 2010 to raise money for the ranch, since state law prohibits fundraising by government entities. First, I would like to express my enduring gratitude to Congressman Raul Grijalva. If it were not for his efforts during his tenure as county supervisor, we would not even be discussing this issue regarding this beautiful ranch today. Instead, the historic Canoa Ranch would be covered by 6,000 plus homes plus an RV park, just another subdivision. Our effort to save the ranch began in 1994. It took 6 years for the county to buy the ranch. County Administrator Huckleberry was opposed to the idea of purchasing the ranch, but county citizens, recognizing its potential, brought that about in 2000 by way of a very successful bond issue. The Pima County Canoa Ranch Trust and Oversight Committee was formed in 2001 and is composed of historians, astronomers, archaeologists, activists, naturalists, scientists, Tohono O'odham tribal members, and members who grew up on the ranch in its heyday, people from all walks of life all over Pima County. This committee has held meetings at least every other month, and sometimes more if necessary. Mr. Huckleberry, to my recollection, has not attended any of our meetings. However, county staff has. The master plan was completed after 7 years of meetings that were held all over Pima County, getting input from the citizens as to what they wanted to see in the future of the ranch. This plan cost $238,000. Friends of Canoa has made its priority raising funds to regenerate the historic pond and lake at the ranch because of its being central to the life of the ranch. We have requested information regarding costs from the administrator, but have been put off by him. He made an oblique reply to us on December 8th. I can tell you more about that if you'd like to know. The brochure you have in front of you describes a brief history of the ranch as well as our Friends project. Another 501c3, Adela Canoa, was formed a year later after ours was formed, but we are told that it has since dissolved. This charge of competition between fundraisers is pure fiction. Now Mr. Huckleberry wants to change the master plan to suit his whims. Mr. Huckleberry did not have the courtesy to advise either the Oversight Committee or staff or Friends of Canoa of his agenda item today.
Ms.
We
Kircher,
found out about it from a
over
reporter.
your time limit,
What
please
are
wrap
your
up.
intentions, Mr. Huckleberry, to commercialize the ranch? Thank you. If you have any questions, I will be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Ms. Kurtz.
Mr. Huckleberry? Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
Supervisor Elias.
Before we go on to our next speaker, let's address the issue of the master plan. You want to comment on that, Chuck? I mean, because as far as I'm understanding now, especially with this clarification yesterday, the master plan stays in place, and the charge is to continue working on that master plan, if I understood correctly.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Supervisor Elias, we have no intention nor any plan to change any component to the master plan.
Okay, very good. Good answer. Just wanted to make sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sandra Stone.
Sandra Stone, 1190 North Rio Mineral, Green Valley. I'd like to do just a little bit about the history, both the recent history and the long history. I came here to Pima County in 1995, and there was work already about deciding what to do with those 5,000 acres. When the Board of Supervisors approved the purchase of this land, two things happened. The supervisors acted by hiring Poster Frost Associates, Inc. to study the location, hold public meetings for Pima County people to help determine how the space should be used, and to finally develop a master plan for the property. The supervisors also set up a trust and oversight committee to participate in the planning first, and then to act as oversight to see that the master plan was carried out. Poster Frost produced a background report in April of 2006, and then the final report in February of 2007, the Canoa Ranch Master Plan. During this time, the Trust and Oversight Committee worked first with Poster Frost and Linda Mayrow, then the Pima County Cultural Resource Manager. As the master plan began to be formed, the T&O Committee began to work with Natural Resources, Parks and Rec, and NRPR became the county group that would help carry out the master plan. We worked with 4 different people as the years went by, and Robert Vaughn is the latest person to work with the committee. The committee has worked all this time, and I'm sure the members will continue to try to make certain that as the master plan was designed, all the peoples who lived on this land will have their stories told. The first people, the Native Americans, the Spanish, the Mexican, and of course this was Mexico for quite a while, and the Anglos. The master plan shows how to tell the stories, the history of each of these groups, and the stories of how these groups interact. It's not easy to accomplish, but the master plan committee was formed by Pima County Board of Supervisors to help to make that happen. Then on Thursday, January the 2nd, I got a phone call from a reporter at the Green Valley News. What's this business about the Trust and Oversight Committee being dissolved? I had no answer, just surprise. And have the 3 people who were added to the committee, have they ever been personally talked to? I don't believe they have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stone. Mr. Huckleberry, did you want to respond? Okay. Oh, no, I was talking to Mr. Huckleberry, Sandra. Okay, Patricia Martin? Got nice boots.
Yeah, they represent our meetings. You see, the people on horseback with the. Well, good morning.
It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you, and thank you for letting us speak this morning. I actually am on a slightly.
I need your name and address for
I'm
the record
sorry.
officially.
It's actually Patricia Preciado Martin, and my address is 1735 East Entrada 9, 85718. There's so many things I wanted to say this morning, but I'd like to begin by expressing my respect and loyalty toward Canoa Trust and Oversight Committee members. I have been a member of the minority on that board, being of Mexicana descent, if you want to call me Latina, Hispana, Chicana, whatever is in vogue now. But I feel like it's been extremely important that my passion and my dedication to the fact that Mexican history has to be showcased at San Ignacio de la Canoa, which is its real name. It was a Mexican land grant, San Ignacio de la Canoa. That has to be showcased there. But I couldn't have gotten this far without the support of everybody who happens to be present here today. Nancy Williams, Ralph Ellison, Sandra Stone, Ellie, of course Amanda and I are on the same team. Tom Sheridan couldn't be here. So, you know, without the support of people who are not of my culture and ethnicity, I don't think anyone would have taken us seriously. It has been a struggle. It has been a struggle. And I think it's extremely important that our heritage and our culture not be forgotten and not be dismissed and not be benignly neglected. Now, the fact that we have had such diversity on this committee has been extremely important, and I'm very, very concerned that my struggles over the last 12 years, because I have a history with these people, will not be understood. I don't even know who's coming on the committee. Am I going to have to start from square one? Is Amanda going to have to start from square one? And the other members of the committee who quit in frustration, like Raquel Goldsmith, who's also a respected scholar, Tom Sheridan, who has been a tremendous advocate for what we've been trying to do at the Canoa. As far as Mexicano history, I was a personal friend of Daisy Manning, but I fought for our presence there, and that's what my big concern. I'm going to have to start all over again. And I'm having a very hard time believing that these friends and advocates of ours have been dismissed so summarily. Dan Brocious, I forgot him. There's just too many people who have said, yay, go forward, we can do this. And the names of the people are so numerous. The Ahumadas, the Salcidos, the Grijalvas, of course, the Murietas, the Amados from Amado, Arizona, the Elias. I mean, the names are in the hundreds. How am I going to start from scratch? So I wanted to really let you know that I oppose the dissolvement of the committee because we've worked so hard to get where we are. And I feel a very strong sense of loyalty. And I feel bad that I have been selected out without knowing why, you know, to remain on this committee, because there are other people that do a lot of work and have worked extremely hard to get to where we are today. And Mr. Huckleberry, I would like to congratulate you. Are you recording me? On the article that came out in the paper this week. El que vive en la memoria nunca muere. The person that lives in our memory never dies. And you are fortunate because you are powerful and strong. But the people that lived on that ranch and all the Mexicanos up and down the Santa Cruz River Valley were not. But they deserve to be remembered too. So you will be remembered. And I think that the members of the Canoa Trust and Oversight Committee deserve to be remembered, respected, and remain on the commission as we know it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Murphy?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Mary Murphy, Green Valley. I'd like to add two names, Murray and Murphy, to the list of all that have been involved in the Canoa Ranch area and the Green Valley area. One of the epiphany moments of my life took place on horseback, riding that ranch. It was back in May of '74. The Mannings had sold to, and I don't know who the name of the people were that were there, but it was an epiphany that brings me back to you today with regard to all the other issues that I have been before you with. Last Tuesday when I left here, the gates were open down at the historic site, so I cruised in, took a look around as far as I could. You can only drive so far. I don't know the master plans. I would like to see them. One of the things that concerns me is it's my flood control involvement that has taken me to these areas on the east side of the highway where the historic ranch is. I have no flood control drainage way issues south of number 25, the area where the hospital is going in. Corps of Engineers no one's been involved in this drainage issue. There is a history of flooding. I-19 went in 1967 was when the Mannings sold the ranch. It first flooded that Christmas season. I don't know what all that means to restoration and everything else, but I'm very much concerned about it, that there would be culture to be considered from the Native American to the Mexican culture to the Anglos. Frankly, what I've found lately, I've been like, you know, hey, Anglos, look what you've done to this, because I'm encountering so many problems that people don't want to attend to. The history, I got a couple of geography papers out of this area when I was in college. One of them took it back to the dinosaurs before the tectonic forces of the earth pushed up the mountains. And Madeira Canyon and those areas are volcanic. They're not even extinct. I believe they're still dormant as they last erupted as 10,000 years ago. Flooding there, I'm concerned about it. It flooded in 67, it flooded in 77, it flooded in 83. All of them took out the bridge at Continental. All of these issues started about a motto, and they go on. And while I was down there, I went to the other side where I had ridden horseback, and am deeply disturbed at the housing. Everything's covered in housing, some of which I hear there are houses built in there in washes and canyons. Some of them are falling apart. So and on the west side of the highway, I have no flood control drainage way designation south of number 17. That's Continental Road. There's a heck of a lot going on. There is no master drainage plan for Green Valley. There never has been. Is this the time? It's never too late to do the right thing. If we're going to do anything with this land, let's do it in the best interest of the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Amanda Castillo.
Madam Chair and members of the board, my name is Amanda Castillo. I live at 445 South Fifth Avenue in Tucson. I have been a member of the Canoa Ranch Community Trust and Oversight Committee for 12 years. I was a year old when I arrived at the Canoa and lived there until I was 14. Canoa Ranch is a unique place with thousands of years of history, and when the committee helped to develop the master plan, we agreed that all peoples would be represented. Our vision was that Canoa would be a living, breathing reflection of the history, a place where people would return and return. This proposal for reorganization blindsided us. The county administrator sent a memorandum to the Board of Supervisors and staff on December 9th. We found out a week ago from a newspaper reporter. There was very little time for us to contact supervisors and educate them on our vision, accomplishments, and future plans. Members of my family first arrived at the Canoa Ranch in the 1920s. A cousin was born there. This place was our Ellis Island, a place where Mexican immigrants first arrived, a place where the Ahumadas, Gallardos, Grijalvas, Murrietas, Ortiz, and Salcido families, among many others, first arrived. Arizona has demonized the Mexican immigrant. We can no longer learn about our history in our schools. We are made invisible as our history disappears. Canoa is a place to tell the real story of this region. And excuse me, I get emotional. This was the place where I grew up. Any issues pertaining to this committee should have been handled internally. After all the years of serving as citizens on the committee, we deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. This has created a lot of unnecessary ill will. Members of the committee have held 2 reunions at the ranch, interviewed people who lived and work at the ranch, contacted people to get photographs and artifacts, trained docents, established the nonprofit group Friends of Canoa Heritage Foundation, and many other activities. Please do not shortchange our history and the citizens of Pima County. At the opening of the ranch last March, Mr. Gaylor approached my family. His father had been a foreman at the ranch. He told us that when he was young and his mother was sick, my parents brought them food. Your parents were good people, he said. I am descended from good people, and I want to thank the Canoa Trust, Community Trust and Oversight Committee because you are good people. Conservation, sustainability, recycling, locally grown, slow food were all things done by families on the ranch. We called it survival, and we will survive. Those of us who care so deeply for the ranch will continue to ensure that the real history does not disappear. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Dan Brocious.
Madam Chair and members of the Board of Supervisors, I'm Dan Brocious, a longtime committee member of the Canoa Ranch Trust and Oversight Committee. And with regard to this agenda item...
I need your name and address for the record before you start, okay?
My address is 4946 West Sundance Way.
Thank you.
And with regard to this agenda item, I think it is short-sighted to dismiss a committee that has contributed so much to the formation of the Raul Grijalva Canoa Ranch Conservation Park. Many of the longtime members of this committee are the ones who fought so hard to prevent the sea of red tile rooftops from covering over this cultural treasure. As for the park, the county is to be applauded for purchasing this open space with the intent for conservation. Now that an excellent master plan is in place, the committee has seen its task as helping with implementation of the plan. As proposed, however, this new committee would be limited to fundraising review. No mention is made of helping with the actual implementation of the plan. No value was placed on academic credentials or ties to the Canoa until yesterday afternoon's last-minute addition of 3 committee member names who haven't even been asked about serving. Mr. Huckleberry recently mentioned consistency with the master plan, and there is certainly some concern the committee has had about that. The ranch headquarters have been named Hacienda de la Canoa. As member Tom Sheridan pointed out, the ranch was not a hacienda, and hacienda has some very negative connotations. The county's reply was that the Manning family had made some signs calling it Hacienda de la Canoa and would refer to it on occasion that way. Now, this information could have been used to educate visitors about a working ranch versus a hacienda in the on-site interpretation. Instead, now we have the average visitor being misled into thinking the park is a hacienda. A small point, some may say, but why not do it right? By the way, a search of the master plan does not show a single instance of the word hacienda. In my time on the committee, I've been pleased and impressed by the talent and dedication of the county staff working on this project. What I've described seems to stem from a management issue, not the capability of this staff. Now, if the committee needs to be streamlined or compartmentalized, let's discuss it before taking drastic action. The present committee could be reformed into a more nimble group of half a dozen or so people drawn from the existing committee to provide park interpretation and plan implementation advice. If the county wants to form a separate fundraising group, that's fine, but don't destroy the value in the present committee in the process. The county administrator has changed the original proposal at least twice so far. I suggest that it continue to be amended until it is good for all who care about San Ignacio de la Canoa. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Supervisor Elias.
I just want to thank you for your work on the committee, and I understand your position that you're taking here today, and I don't entirely disagree with you, and I appreciate you taking your time to come here and do this. What I would ask you is that if in fact this committee gets reorganized in some way, shape, or form, I would like you to continue to represent District 5 on the committee, if you find that agreeable. Don't have to answer now. Certainly there's a lot of things that are going to come into play on all of that, but I think Mr. Huckleberry's comments about the master plan and the continued implementation of the master plan means that that's part of the charge that's going to continue there with that committee. Okay?
Certainly hope so.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Carroll.
I also want to commend Dan, the Smithsonian and the Whipple Observatory during the long fight of the rezoning process was clearly one of the bellwethers that really directed the community to get behind the outdoor lighting and the other significant impact that the 6,000 homes would have had was certainly scientifically challenged by your expertise, and thank you very much for all the help that you and the Vatican and the Air Force and NASA and everybody else had in it. Thank you, Dan, for your time, and I'm looking forward to, as Richard said, hopefully working with you long in the future. Madam Chair,
Supervisor Carroll.
if there's no other people that are here to speak or comments from
Well,
the
let
board.
me ask, is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to address us on this item? Supervisor Carroll.
I appreciate the opportunity to hear from the people who have been so very involved since 1997 when I came to the Board of Supervisors at Canoa Ranch. I'm certainly grateful for their service, and I know that the county administrator is prepared not only to recognize their service, but also we have many philibums that are showed as a part of our respect and gratitude for members of committees such as this. I'm grateful for the service, as I said. Congressman Grijalva certainly had the best and most profound impact on this project since I came to represent District 4 in 1997. and that's why it's been named for him. And we will continue to promote and celebrate the diversity of the Santa Cruz Valley in his memory and with his support.
I believe he's still alive.
Oh, yeah, he is. Well, much, sometimes to the dismay of others, but yes, he's alive and well. I will say that I'd like to go ahead and make a recommendation or a motion, and that's that the formation of Canoa Conservation Committee will, upon formation, replace the Canoa Ranch Community Trust and Oversight Committee, the adoption of the following mission statement of the Canoa Ranch Conservation Committee as listed in the January 14th, 2014 memo, to assist the Pima County Natural Resources Park and Recreation Department reviewing and making recommendations to the county administrator and the Board of Supervisors regarding all public-private partnership proposals for the conservation, restoration, and expansion and development of Canoa Ranch put forward by foundations and other organizations. In addition, the Canoa Ranch Conservation Committee will work collaboratively to acquire funds and plan future bond funding for the implementation of the Canoa Master Plan. Number 3, approval of the Canoa Conservation Committee organizational structure as follows: 10 members, 5 appointed by the Board of Supervisors, 1 appointed by the County Administrator, 1 appointed by the Tohono O'odham Nation, and 3 members, Amanda Castillo, Patricia Preciado Martin, and Tom Sheridan, to serve as invited members representing the historic, cultural, and occupational uses of historic Canoa Ranch. Each member will be appointed for a term of 4 years and shall not serve more than 2 consecutive terms. And number 4, I direct the county administrator to formalize a management team of county staff from Natural Resources, Parks and Recreation, Regional Flood Control District, the Office of Sustainability and Conservation, and Facilities Management to provide technical management, administrative support to the Canoa Ranch Conservation Committee to ensure the open space, watershed, and cultural resource values are protected, interpreted, and appropriately managed in the implementation of the master plan.
Is there a second?
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Elias.
you know, I want to make several comments. First and foremost, I certainly appreciate the comments made by Patricia Preciado Martin. I think your comments were right on and indicative of a lot of the recent history of Canoa Ranch and what's gone on here in Arizona over time. So I appreciate those comments and I agree with them. Thank you for coming here and making those today. As far as this action in front of the board, I would ask for a friendly amendment to Mr. Carroll's motion. Number 1, I would ask that the mission statement be removed from that list of items, and that whatever committee exists come up with their own mission statement, following the lines and the guidelines of what we've talked about here, so that they have a chance to consider their own charge and consider their own information as well, rather than having that foisted upon them. The other thing I would ask is that we add a 5th item to this list, or I suppose supplant the 2nd item, however you want to look at it, so that there's 4 of them. Basically saying that the committee is going to continue to guide Pima County in sticking to the master plan and maintaining the ideas of the master plan and implementation of that master plan, so that we all understand that that's where we're at and that we are not budging on that. And the true history is what really works down there at Canoa. And when you go to events down there, and those folks that are there who live there, and the folks who sweated and worked together, and their progeny are together, there is something real and palpable that is beautiful, and it really is powerful for all of us. And I look forward to this place being that place in perpetuity. So that's very important to us.
Madam Chair, Mr. Elias?
Yes.
Supervisor
May I
Carroll.
respond and say that as
Please.
far as an item number 5, I think the mission statement will always be an integral part of the Canoa Ranch experience
No, the
for
master
any
plan.
board, and the master plan as well. So if you want to put that item 5 on to the motion, I'm willing to accept that as a friendly amendment and make it the master plan will always be an integral part of the Canoa Commission, and it's
Okay, and so let's
And its
clarify this,
mission.
Supervisor Carroll, if
Yeah,
we could.
I-
You're
yeah.
willing to accept the item related to the master
Master
plan and
plan.
maintaining
Right.
that and continuing
And
to
you
work
might
on
put
that?
on the end of number 5 that the mission statement will be subject to additions and amendments by the committee throughout the course of their service, which most commissions are. That's a
Right.
recommending body. Most
I understand that. As long as all of us understand and whatever committee members are going to be on there, understand that mission statement can be changed.
As we make the
And
next.
can be
as-
adopted and
Yes, sir.
changed
As
to
we take,
workforce.
I'm sorry, but as we take the next step, I'm glad that you've thought about who you'd appoint, and I do think that in our quest to find good commissioners, that we should discuss that the master plan is the quote-unquote Bible of the Canoa experience, as they shall be on the commission to enforce and enhance as much as they can with their service.
Okay, so you're willing to accept those two
Yes.
friendly amendments that I made?
Yes, I
So-
am.
So
Thank you very much.
let me recap then. What we have is the original motion by Supervisor Carroll on the floor, amended to include the ability to change the mission statement and to make the implementation of the master plan part of the charge of the committee. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Then that is the motion. I will call the question. Roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Does the seconder of the motion accept the friendly thank you.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor.
I just wanted to make a couple comments to this.
I have called the question, so
Okay,
we're done.
sorry.
I'm sorry. I didn't know there were any other comments. I
I was waiting.
apologize.
That's okay.
Supervisor Carroll.
Aye.
Supervisor Elias.
Aye.
Supervisor Miller.
Aye.
Supervisor Valadez.
Aye.
Chair Bronson.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.